Going to call the regular meeting to order, a little bit late. And we're all in rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Well, you can go, sure. We're just going to do the roll call. Clerk, and we'll count you here. Clerk Gilanis.
Supervisor Cry is here. Highway Commissioner Kazmierczak is here. Clerk Gilanis is here. Supervisor Moraz.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee McKenzie. Trustee Caraboto.
Here.
Trustee Sweeney.
Here.
Alright, we'll wait. We have none, so we sign. Okay, well, we're not gonna sign it. Wally, somebody needs to make it. Is it Wally?
He's went to the washroom.
Okay.
He's just here. So we'll give it to him.
Oh, I know. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I'm gonna ask, motion for approval of minutes of April 23rd, 2019 bill payment.
Second.
Motion and second, is there any discussion? Hearing none. For bill pay?
Oh, I'm sorry, there was no, I thought 23rd. Bill, I'm sorry. No.
Okay. Hearing none, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moraz.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie.
Yes.
Trustee Caraboto.
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney.
Yes.
Okay. Alright. Motion for approval of the minutes of the April 23rd, 2019 board.
Second.
I get it. Alright, motion and second, any discussion?
Just one
Trustee
comment,
Sweeney.
page 7, I think it's just a typo, the spelling of the word non-precedential settlement. Attorney Kirk, if you can look at page 7, as it references the lawsuit to settle for $4,000 as non-precedential.
Is it non-prejudicial or
The word is
non-precedent?
presidential in there, and I think that needs to be altered to.
Her note said prejudicial, what did yours reflect?
It's not presidential.
Well, it's
Right,
certainly not
because it would never
presidential.
be
It
precedent.
doesn't set any precedent,
Right.
and it was a dismissal with prejudice. So they can't bring the lawsuit again. So I think that'd be as,
Just get rid of that.
settle, yeah, I think you just say, propose to settle for $4,000 with a dismissal with prejudice.
Right.
Okay.
With a dismissal with prejudice.
Yeah. Because it certainly doesn't set any precedent.
No.
So.
Okay, with that amendment, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Gilanis, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moraz.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie.
Yes.
Trustee Caraboto.
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the minutes of May 14th, 2019 special board.
Second.
Motion and second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Gilanis, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moraz.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie.
Yes.
Trustee Caraboto.
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney.
Yes.
Is there any public participation further than what we've had? Donna?
Donna Adam, Des Moines. I was able to attend the agency day that Maine Township had this past month, and I just wanted to say how nice that event was. And you know, as your comment was saying before about how that the township is doing so many things to within the agency to help people, you could really tell that all of the agencies within Maine Township really appreciated that event. And there were so many comments about how nice it was, and it really was an impressive event. And many of the not-for-profits were so glad to be a part of that. Information is shared with others, and I just wanted to say how nice that event was.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Donna. Anybody else? I make a motion to approve, or ask for a motion to approve general assistance expenditure.
Motion to approve payroll for pay dates of May 3rd, 2019 and May 17th, 2019, and general assistance checks numbers 51951 through check number 52008 in the total amount of $65,845.15.
Motion and second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Jelimes, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Okay. I'm asking for a motion for approval of road district expenditures.
Motion for approval of payroll for pay dates of May 3, 2019 and May 17, 2019, and road district checks number 20885 through check number 20923 in the amount of $127,920.08.
Second.
Motion second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Jelimes, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Okay, and I'll make a motion, having reviewed all of the bills, for approval of general town fund expenditure. Is there a second?
Second.
Tied second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Jelimes, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
All right, and Dr. Victoria McGrath from McGrath Human Resources Group is here to give us her report.
Good evening. Although the report obviously has been discussed before it was presented, I will give a very brief review of what we did, what our procedure was, and what our recommendations are. I am Dr. Victoria McGrath. I am CEO of McGrath Human Resources Group. We're the firm that was asked to come in and look to see whether or not Maine Township should have a structured compensation plan. Just from a knowledge of our background, we've been in business for 19 years. We service predominantly all public sector entities from the county on down. In addition to that, previous to that, I did work in the private sector, so I do know what the dark side is like. We were contracted to do some objectives for Maine Township. One was to obtain and establish a compensation that's equitable with the external market, to evaluate internal equity, to integrate that into a classification and compensation plan, to evaluate total compensation, and then to evaluate the Fair Labor Standards Act and status of employees as to whether they should be exempt or non-exempt. Before we start, I think we need to understand what a classification system is. First of all, any form of entity, whether you are private sector or public sector, you're here to provide a service. As you've all indicated that you're doing your due diligence in providing services to the residents that you represent for Maine Township. The only way government gets those services across to its constituents is by purchasing the services of employees and what their skills are. So when we look at a compensation system, basically what we're doing is we're establishing a hierarchy within the organization, saying here's what the jobs are, here's how they should be paid based upon the skills, education, knowledge, responsibilities of the position, not of the person. Then we assign a worth to that position. And that position has a minimum and a maximum. We're not going to pay less than this, and we're not going to pay more than this. That's what everyone does who develops a structured compensation system. It is not a reward system for employees. It's based because you are purchasing their skills, their services, in order to provide the services that you want to have here in Maine Townships. And obviously they've been appreciated as we've heard some of the accolades of your citizens. As part of the compensation system, it can or cannot be a reward system for employees. And that's how you move through that system. In traditional government sector organizations, you have something called a step system. A step system has pay grades. There's 5 or 6, 10, 15 steps that are go with it. And most likely, if it's a union environment, you move to the next step regardless of performance. Very seldom do we see in public sector merit-based type systems, predominantly because of the union organization. That's not a positive or negative, it's just the way it is. But that's how traditional government has. Maine Township does have a merit-based system. We did chat about that in a couple of the drafts. And so therefore Maine Township should be applauded that it does have a merit-based system. And so employees move or get a pay increase, because there is no salary structure here, but they move or get a pay increase based upon that performance. So that's something that needs to be applauded, because that's something that you do not see in almost 70 to 80% of governmental organizations. Our methodology was this. We first met with all department directors and with the township administrator, because one of the things is that when it comes to organizations, we have over 350, 60 clients in 37 states. That doesn't mean that I understand the positions here in Maine Township. The second thing we needed to do is we needed to collect external market data. A lot of emphasis is placed on looking at similar township positions, because there are a number of positions that, you're right, are not in the surrounding areas, but the same thing compensation practices says you have to look at who are you recruiting your employees from. And if I stand on the corner of Rand Road and Ballard, which way do I want to turn in order to get a job? Do I want to go to Park Ridge? Do I want to go to Niles? Do I want to go to Cook County? And so all of those are considered to be your competitors when it comes to seeking talent for within your organization. In addition to that, employees had to complete a position questionnaire. Position questionnaire is about a 16-page document that goes into a lot of depth in the type of decision-making, problem-solving, technology, budget responsibilities that are required for the position. After that was done, we did collect data from 20 different organizations that are within this geographical area. I understand some of them are cities. I've worked with some of the cities, but at the same point in time, those are people that are competing for the talent that you want here within this organization. When we do that, we also ask for their salary schedule, give us what their minimum, midpoint, and maximum is, and then we also ask what people are actually making. So if I'm looking at assessor, I want to know what other assessors are actually making. If I'm looking at administrative assistant or a township administrator, I want to know what those folks are actually making. So it's not just looking at what the salary schedule says. We actually came up with 34 different job titles, because one of the problems with the township or with other small municipal organizations is that sometimes employees have to wear multiple hats. And so therefore I'm not going to be able to find a bookkeeper / HR / accountant. And so you have to develop that into, I'm looking for a bookkeeper, I'm looking for HR, I'm looking for something else. And so we do survey those by separate positions. And then we have a methodology in which we blend those together. Once we've developed the schedule, we then reviewed that with the town administrator, town supervisor, a couple of the major departments that you have here to make sure that it makes sense. Currently, the township does not have a compensation system. I could be very facetious and I could say it's compensation by dartboard. That's usually what I call it when you don't have a compensation system. However, the township has tried to do compensation surveys with other townships to see how their employees are being paid. With that said, however, it's been concentrating necessarily, or sometimes just on townships, not on the geographical area in which you compete. Annually, the trustees determine that wage increase, and as I said before, that wage increase is based upon merit. When we look at compensation, what we do is we look at a comp ratio. A comp ratio is the ratio of what your minimum salary is to the average market minimum. And when we go out and do that average market minimum, we actually do a statistical analysis around that data, because we understand that there are organizations around here that are going to pay higher than you, and there are organizations that are going to pay lower than you. And by doing a statistical analysis around that average, we will eliminate between 1 to 2 standard deviations those folks that are outliers. So we do not want to skew that number higher or lower. My favorite saying, and this is not a reflection of this township, it's my saying whenever I get up and do a presentation, all elected officials want me to keep all the lower paying municipalities in. All employees want me to put all the higher paying municipalities in, and I don't make either one of you happy because I'm throwing both of those out. So we want to make sure we get to the true average of that position. When conducting that analysis, it is actually true that because of the lack of having a structured compensation system here, almost 60% of the positions are significantly below the average market rate, let alone a minimum. That means that there are a number of positions, 60% of them, that you are underpaying for the types of services that they could get going elsewhere. In addition to that, you have 40% of the salaries that are at or close to the market rate. Depending upon how we develop that salary structure, it could be at the top of that range. There's one structure we had that one position was over that range, and that really has nothing to do with overpaying the employee. It's just that you do have a number of longer tenured employees here. So over the years, it's not uncommon to see people at the top end of the range or slightly over that range. In addition to that, we were asked to look at the private sector. The problem you have is that A, private sector employers do not have to give you their salaries, and B, it's very difficult to get private to public sector matches. I've worked in both arenas, I understand both arenas. So we did find a number of organizations through, we compared them to the average market rate of municipalities, and we looked to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They have a Chicago metro section, and with that we were able to compare that. Most of your salaries are at or below the private sector. You do have a few that are above. Very common to see. We were asked to look at total compensation, and obviously that's the reason why it's already 9 o'clock at night. And so the thing we have to look at when it comes to total compensation is, you're right, we do want to compare health insurance and pension to other types of municipalities. I'm sorry, you want to compare to private sector, that's okay, but then you can't do some of the things that private sector can do in the public sector, so you're not comparing apples to oranges. So we do look at other private sector. You're right, you have a unique health insurance plan at this point in time. That doesn't mean you're going to keep it forever, but it means you have to have a plan to move forward. It means you can't just, as I call it, rip off the Band-Aid because we're going to unplug it today. When it comes to pension, pension is dictated by the state. And so contributions to pension have nothing to do with the level of benefit the employee is going to get. It's an actuarial calculation based upon the age of service of your employees here. So yes, if I'm looking at pension, I'm looking at the same type of pension plan, regardless if I go next door, around the corner. The difference is going to be the contributions, and it has nothing to do with anything other than what the population of that organization is at that point in time. So basically, I gave you two options. Option one is a structured plan. That structured plan grouped positions based upon minimum, market, and maximum. of the average market rate of positions that are similar in the public sector. We do a methodology. That questionnaire that employees filled out actually evaluates a job into 15 different competencies. Those competencies that are evaluated both externally and internally, and positions are grouped into pay grades. Those pay grades then are working off the average market rate. We also look for internal comparability. So if we have a supervisor to a subordinate position, it makes sense for that employee at some point in time, if they want that promotion, to do that without a loss in pay. There's also something called compression, which is something that this organization does not have to worry about because it definitely keeps its overtime of its employees in check, and that's not an issue that we have to deal with. That's option number one. Needless to say, in discussing option one with the town and some of the elected officials, it's very problematic because it does require the township to bring employees up to what the average market minimum is. And in some cases, that's extremely significant because of the underpayment of those positions over the years. So basically, knowing the fact that we have this health insurance issue that's out here, we're actually recommending no formal salary structure at all. However, with that being said, you need to look at the salary schedule that was developed and start bringing a number of those positions closer to at least the average minimum, especially if you're going to walk down the road of changing health insurance, because you can't do one without the other. You have to start increasing the salaries of a vast preponderance of the folks here before you can start changing the benefit plan. I'm all for changing the benefit plan. I think it's something you need to walk down, but you start working at it now. By now, you start getting those salaries up to where they should be, and then you can start moving off that grandfather plan and start doing higher deductibles and higher co-pays, and make yourself a 3 to 5 year plan to start moving in that direction, unless, of course, the grandfather plan option chooses it for you. But you do need to do both. You can't do one versus the other. Other recommendations that we had were title changes, changes to FLSA status. There's a number of people here that are considered to be exempt employees. That means they are exempt from overtime, and by definition and by following the federal law, they are not exempt and need to be returned to hourly employees and paid for overtime for hours worked over 40. There's a number of individuals here that are very talented and speak multiple languages. And so therefore we are suggesting that you look at some sort of bilingual pay for individuals who have to work outside of their own area and present and do things for other departments or for the website or for brochures or things of that nature, so that you at least pay for some of that talent that they bring to this organization. So as I've indicated, when it comes to benefits, I think you need to start walking down, getting off that grandfather plan. I don't think this is the year to do it. I also don't think this is the year to not give employees increases, especially since almost everybody around with the economy is giving increases. So start getting those salaries up and start looking at 2020 to maybe move off that plan if it is feasible. And maybe then by 2021 or 22, you can start walking down the high deductible plan with significant contributions to those HSAs by the employer. That's how most organizations did it back several years ago. So I think you need to develop a multi-year plan. So in summary, I think you need to start moving those folks that are below the market to the market. We are experiencing a labor shortage. I think I heard someone say something, when people come in the door, they look at total package. That's true, but not this generation that's coming in the door. You look at millennials, no offense to any of those that might be in the room here, millennials don't care about the benefits at this point in time. They want, show me the money. And your salaries are not competitive. You have a number of folks that can walk across the street and get significantly higher dollars. They do it here because they have a passion for your township, and they do it right now because they have a passion because they feel like they're treated equitably. I'm done. Questions?
So it wasn't, I just want to make sure that I was accurate in the portrayal, that it wasn't one versus the other.
Well, it's not benefits versus compensation. You have to look at those in combination, and what's the plan going to be to walk down that road?
Okay, and, so your actual final recommendation was accurate in that, to do a 2.5%?
I don't have a particular percentage, but I do think you should be looking at least a 2 or a 2.5% increase, possibly higher for those folks that are significantly below the minimums at this point in time. The 40% of those positions that are within the range.
I meant if we couldn't implement the salary schedule, we had an alternative.
But again, I think even if you're not implementing the salary schedule, the recommendation is to look, there's a list of positions in there that are significantly below the market. And if you can give those folks a little bit more, then you can start walking down that total benefits package road down a couple years ago.
So you're saying the salaries go first, so that they have a way to rip off that.
Well, I think you need to get a good number of the positions up to the point, because if you start saying, now, I'm paying you close to, I mean, there's a couple of folks that could have gotten a 48% increase just to get to the minimum, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to pay you 48% below the minimum, and I'm going to increase your health insurance contribution, and I'm going to now change your deductible. I think that's going to be very problematic.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody have questions?
I do.
Okay.
I'm curious why you didn't include Palatine and Wheeling and some of the townships closer to us. Were they outliers or?
No, everybody's listed there that we were given initially, because we met with everybody to say, who do you compete with? And that was the
In terms of
hiring.
So from the staff.
Right. And then we look at the geographical area around us as well. So it's not just staff.
Okay.
We don't typically get people
Those
applying.
are not considered council organizations.
Correct.
They're not on that chart.
Correct.
They're not in there.
Correct.
Okay, unless, I emailed you, but I'm not sure if you may have responded back. I am not clear on how you arrived at the comp ratio if you look at page 14.
Sure, the comp ratio is basically, if you're looking at the first column, divided by the second column, minus 0.5. Right. What you normally get, if you don't do the minus 0.5, you're going to get it, market would be 100%. And then you'd be, if your market's 100%, you're okay if you're in market if you're between 80 and 110. And we usually use 50%, it just makes it cleaner and easier for people to understand.
So if the ultimate, if we ever had time or sat down to do a long-term strategic plan as to implementing, I think you, when you first started, I commend you tremendously. The cost to do that was $168.
The very first one was actually a step plan. I thought it would be much more easier for folks to understand. It also did include a performance evaluation component where you wouldn't get the step unless you had acceptable performance. I believe that was $190-some thousand.
Okay, and so this one, I think you got down to 90 something?
I think so.
Yeah, to implement so I'm not misspeaking, it was that 60% of these positions, not people, the positions are very, 60% are underpaid. 40% are at the right pay. Of those 40, 36, there is 4% in the danger zone.
That's correct. There's 4%.
Can you tell us what the danger zone is?
Sure. As I just indicated before with the trustee's question, 50% is considered market, the average market rate. People then want to know, well, am I paid correctly? So if $25,000 is the average market rate and I'm being paid $22,000, aha, I'm underpaid. No, we look at a range around that market and we say usually 10% above or 10% below, we say you're okay. So if you're between 40 and 60%, you're still being paid adequately. What we always look at though, and what we're taught to look at, is those positions that are in the 40 to 40% comp ratio. They're acceptable, they're fine, you don't need to do anything with right now, but they're at risk just, if you don't do something with those positions, keep them up in pay, they're gonna fall into the unacceptable range. And so we just kind of use as a caution saying, look, you got these positions that are on the bubble, that if you don't give increases or modifications to those salaries, they'll probably fall below the acceptable market rate.
And you commented that we do not have a turnover rate concern.
At this point in time, I don't think you do have a turnover rate. I think you might, especially you've got some folks that have been here quite some time. And plus you've got a number of master's degree folks that could definitely find significantly higher paying jobs, considering you're paying a master's degree therapist at $14 an hour. Any other?
One more, just the calculation again was the first column divided by the second column, minus 0.5%.
Minus 0.5.
Or just minus 0.5.
Correct. That will give you a percentage.
Walmart, actually. Right, so the therapists are $14 an hour.
I'm just finishing, I'm doing a job right now for a municipality in Tennessee, and in Tennessee you can make $12.50 an hour working at a grocery stores.
No, our minimum wage in here is going up to $15 an hour in Walmart.
And that's one thing you are going to have to keep track of, because your
Amazon.
positions are now above minimum wage, but as Illinois continues to increase its minimum wage, you're going to have to watch some of those lower paying positions. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good
Great
luck.
job, thank you.
Thank you.
Tori, is it in this board approval? It was previous. All right. Old business. Are you passing? He's getting passed out. The closed session.
Oh, yes.
We're up there. Approval of closed session minutes. First group, November 27th, 2008.
Trustee Scott already, I don't know if.
They have it?
It was in the confidential.
Oh, right.
Okay, all right, and, all right, so, make a motion to approve, content, right, are we just approving content? This is where I always get confused.
Yes, just content, and then you do your semi-annual review of all your minutes that you still have, that are still confidential or haven't been assessed.
Right, but aren't we at the 6th one? They're literally the same day.
Now, the number one this is the review of the minutes from May 8th, which May 8th was already approved. But the minutes, we still have it, so
So this is to release them to the public?
Yeah.
Okay.
they are,
They've been approved for content already?
Correct.
it's already approved, yes.
And so now we're approving the meeting where we approved the content.
There you go.
That's released to the public.
But because this is already approved, we can do this in the open
Correct.
session, right? Because they are.
As opposed to the one coming.
The other ones, right, it'll be the first time, the other ones, 6 months.
Okay, so I think the appropriate motion is to release. All right,
Second.
all right. And motion second, any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Supervisor Marask?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes. All right, next item of business, I am going to make a motion Okay. All right, I'm going to make a motion for approval of what we term the grandfather plan.
Supervisor Marasco, there was a second November 28th closed session.
Yeah, that's coming up, it has to be done in closed session,
Oh, okay, got it. All right, thank you.
because that is for content. Okay. So, I'm gonna make a motion to approve plan number BPP 72212. Which is, the grandfather.
Second.
Having a motion and a second and previously extensive discussion. Is there any further discussion?
I'd just like to thank Catherine for all the work that she put into providing us with a myriad of plans and answering a lot of questions, and also with the negotiations with Blue Cross being successful in reducing our premiums. And not just this year, but I know in past, so you've really gone back for us, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
And also fielding the questions even after the May 14th budget conference to today. I appreciate it.
Second.
I don't have to sign this, can I just sign this?
We call it over here.
Can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee Joe?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, and for everybody's, who's on this plan, there is an open enrollment, or a meeting, that Denise, I already just signed. I literally just
So
signed.
she just gave you the hand.
Yes. Am I supposed to sign yours too? Okay, so, alright, so the open enrollment, I've been informed, has been changed June 10th. Here in the board. Okay. Everybody's got that. All right, next item of business, new business. Attorney Mary Dixon is going to speak to the board as to status in all matters. This was a action item, agenda item requested by trustee Carabota, Sweeney, and I think trustee McKenzie as well. Sorry about that. Okay.
Hello, my name is Mary Dixon. I was appointed as special counsel for the township approximately a year ago now to represent the township in its appeal of an IMRF decision involving the township supervisor. And just to give a little background to some people who might not know how we got there, the first 6 or so months of the representation was to try to get IMRF to realize that the posture of the case had gotten flipped. That at the time the township was involved with its appeal, it was playing catch up really, because the appeal of the decision should have been in the hands of the assessor, who had been denied IMRF eligibility, not in the town and not in the hands of the township, which was put in the position of arguing why the assessor should not be eligible for IMRF benefits. That procedural error was corrected by the IMRF hearing officer in December of last year. So really the first 6 months was to correct an IMRF decision-making process, which was adverse to the township board. And then once we got the procedural posture of the case straightened out, then we were discussing and doing various pleadings before the hearing officer to put it in its correct posture, and that was the appeal of the IMRF decision issued on October 16th, 2017 by the IMRF Executive Director, Louis Casiba, determining that the assessor was no longer IMRF eligible. And that eligibility determination was predicated on a series of IMRF rules which required all of the employing agencies to recertify whether the positions, the elected positions within the township met eligibility requirements. This board determined in August of 2017 that the position of assessor was not IMRF eligible because in the opinion of the township board, it did not meet the minimum hourly requirement for IMRF eligibility. As a result of the different pleadings that have gone forward, which were actually focused more on whether IMRF had rulemaking authority than anything else, the decision of the hearing officer was that IMRF did have rulemaking authority and that the rules set forth by IMRF for the recertification process were legal and in accordance with the pension code, and that the township had correctly followed the rulemaking authority of the IMRF, and that its decision in August of 2017 that the position of assessor was not IMRF eligible was properly made pursuant to the IMRF rules, and that through the appellate process, the petitioner, who was the assessor, had failed to show by preponderance of the evidence that the decision of IMRF was in fact in error and should be reversed. So predicated on those findings, the hearing officer recommended, and the board itself, the IMRF board, approved and adopted the findings of the hearing officer. And the IMRF board ruled on May 17th of this year that the staff determination terminating the assessor's participation in IMRF as of August 31st, 2017 is correct and was affirmed, and ruled that the IMRF staff were to erase all service credit after August 31st, 2017 and refund to the petitioner any employee contributions and voluntary additional contributions pertaining to employment after that date, and then set forth that this was a final ruling of the IMRF board subject to administrative review. So that's the final decision of the IMRF board as of that date. And the petitioner, the assessor, has the opportunity now to file for administrative review, which would be to file a case in one of the various circuit courts that has jurisdiction over this administrative body. Now, on the same date, as I notified the board, the IMRF board also adopted various new resolutions. And one of the new resolutions the board adopted was one specifically affecting positions that are elected officials who are not members of the governing body. For example, in the township's case, the assessor. And what the new rule did, in many respects, one of the things the new rule did was to eliminate the IMRF rule for recertification every 2 years. So that is no longer necessary. And what the new rule also says is relative to elected positions that are non-governing body positions, the new rule provides that if that person holding that position fills out the appropriate paperwork saying that the position should be IMRF eligible, and if the IMRF authorized agent provides the appropriate paperwork to IMRF, those two documents in and of themselves will be enough to at least put forward a case to IMRF that the person should be IMRF eligible. Now, there's a couple of other things that the individual who holds the position has to do, but that is essentially what needs to be done to start the process of participation in the fund. Now, as to the assessor, IMRF has said that there will be no retroactive service credit given. So the decision relative to IMRF eligibility for the period September 1, 2017 to May 17, 2019 is final. There's no retroactivity. But as of May 17, or May 18, because the rule was not announced until after that, if the non-governing body, elected official, follows the dictates of this ordinance, and the IMRF authorized agent does what the IMRF authorized agent is to do pursuant to the ordinance, the process of determining IMRF eligibility can start again. And that decisions of IMRF then, relative to that, will be subject to the appeal process again. Now, as part of that, IMRF indicated that the approved documents that would be necessary are IMRF approved forms that unfortunately have not been affected by this new rulemaking. So IMRF said to fill out two forms, that are Form 6.21 and Form 6.93. Unfortunately, the forms that IMRF wants don't follow the changes that IMRF now is seeking to enact, because in fact, those two forms were filled out on May 23rd and tendered to IMRF relative to the assessor. The unfortunate fact of IMRF Form 621 is that this form continues to contain the requirement that there be a resolution relating to participation by elected officials on file. The resolution that's on file states that the position of assessor is not IMRF eligible. So in certifying that, in providing a new certification for the assessor, the authorized agent actually didn't follow the terms of the form, because the position of the employing agent is that this position is not IMRF eligible. So the certification, in my opinion, is actually in error, because it doesn't follow IMRF dictate, and it doesn't follow either the IMRF authorized agent manual or the form requirement itself. So right now, the position that we're in is we do have the appeal. We don't know yet if it's going to be appealed, but it can be appealed to the circuit court. And we have now an official form tendered on behalf of Maine Township pursuant to the new rule that would indicate that the position of assessor as held by its current occupant is IMRF eligible. And that is contrary to the dictate of this board. So that's where we stand right now.
Now, if I can, the ruling that was made May 17th found that on appeal that the board was correct in all of its conduct and the outcome. That was a unanimous decision of the entire IMRF board, all 8 members, correct?
Well, yes, it was a unanimous opinion, but recognize that the predominance of the opinion was that the IMRF board was correct in setting forth rules, and that the board actually followed all of those rules correctly.
And then on May 17th, they reversed it.
They did not reverse it.
No, they actually made a board resolution, same day, that is active on May 17th.
Correct.
Resolution 2019-05-09D, where under 2 sections, and I talked to IMRF about this.
Who did you speak with, just so I know for my records?
Well, we spoke to Kate, our field representative. I left her a message, and then was told that these 2 forms had not caught up, and they were rescinded. That form, first of all, what I'm certifying is that the job requires 1,000 hours, and as clearly states, and that's certifying the instructions, which have not caught up. And so, would you not agree, I just have a question, that administrative, I do administrative law as well, administrative boards are not, as statutes, are not in the habit of doing superfluous language. Would you agree with that?
I don't know that I would agree with that. And I don't know what in here is...
I'm talking about paragraph 3.
What do you think in paragraph 3 is superfluous?
It's not superfluous. It's
Oh.
different from paragraphs 1 and 2.
Paragraph 3 is because paragraph 3 only applies to
Non-governing.
non-governing body elected
So
members.
they actually changed the law.
They didn't change the law, they changed their administrative rule. There's a difference.
Well, the administrative rule has the force of law,
Only if it's in compliance with statute. If
and,
it's not in compliance with statute, it has no force.
well, according to them, it does. I mean, I guess that will be. But my question is that so basically, board resolution looks to be that they said that the goals of the recertification were done, and that there were 3 ways a person could get certified. 2 of them involved a board determination. The third one did not. That's what I'm asking about, superfluous language.
No, they're treating, in that resolution, they're treating members of the governing body differently than non-governing body members.
Well, they're
So they had to outline those differently. And they recognize that county board members are different as well.
Well, they're
So what
also
you have to focus
recognizing,
on-
I'm sorry, they're also recognizing that it's the IMRF agent, not the board. And it's going forward. So they, the township won. Susie lost a year and a half, so that's a victory.
For the board.
But going forward, so the resolution was clear. Well, obviously, different lawyers. But according to, I was told in IMRF, I mean, there's duties of an IMRF agent. IMRF agent has duties to the employee.
Correct. I don't
You
disagree.
would agree with that?
I would, yes.
Okay, and so, under paragraph 3, it is completely different manner of certifying than 1 and 2. And one of them is the non-governing. They recognize, in fact, it could be argued that they changed the law specifically for the precedential value of all of these positions, not just assessor, any of the non-governing board. Is that a fair statement?
Well, what they changed, the biggest impact of what they changed is, in our ruling, the IMRF board set forth a ruling that said all of their rulemaking authority was legal and proper, and
In the prior.
their requirement for recertification was in keeping with the pension code, and that all the recertifications made in compliance with that were legal and proper, and all IMRF actions taken relative to those decisions that they ruled the legal body should make were proper. What they have said now is, we don't want boards to recertify any longer. So, and that's specifically in there, if you read the resolution, they don't want the recertification of the board.
Right.
And what they're saying is, from now on, in paragraph 3, which is the only paragraph that actually applies here at this moment in time, the opportunity to start a certification process commences with the employee, or in this case, the non-governing body elected official, who has to file the necessary paperwork. And also has a couple of other obligations besides that. But let's say, for the sake of argument right now, she has to file, or that person has to file the paperwork, because I don't want to make this personal. The second requirement is that the IMRF authorized agent file the necessary paperwork.
In accordance with the duties in 40 ILCS 5/7-135B.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, the problem with the IMRF, and I got clarification on this myself, which is why I'm questioning you, Supervisor Murask, as to who you talk to, because part of it with IMRF is maybe you're hearing different information than I am. It's very possible. So, as a matter of fact, you yourself had significant concerns with the way the former IMRF counsel referenced comments you had made to her. So you were very concerned about making sure that what was being discussed publicly was accurate. So that's why I want to know who, I mean, I'm not asking to be rude, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So
I don't
IMRF
think
is
we
saying-
are, but that's, not here or there.
Right.
It's-
Other than IMRF says you file a form 6.21, which you did, but their form 6.21,
Hasn't caught up.
it hasn't caught up, so it's the wrong form. So your certification,
Right, but if IMRF tells you that's the form you need to file, and
well, that's an IMRF problem.
that is correct. It is not an IMRF authorized agent problem.
Well, it is because in filing the IMRF form,
It was rescinded.
okay, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Okay, so.
Maybe there's specs here that I'm not aware of, because I was last told and received a communication indirectly from you that Form 6.21 was filed with IMRF on May 23rd. Have
Right.
you rescinded that form?
No. I'm saying the portion that I think you're talking about, from what I was told by Carrie Lynn, who you conferred with today, is that in the certification that I just signed saying I certify that the job works over 1,000 hours, I'm certifying pursuant to Section 3. And I'm not certain if their instructions haven't caught up. And the part of the instruction that I think was at issue was paragraph 4 of that form that said a previous form, a resolution had to be on file from the governing body, but paragraph 3 specifically takes the governing body out. I mean, it does.
I disagree.
Especially for this term. I mean, sorry for interrupting, but I mean, it is 10 o'clock and I think you're misstating things. You went again against the board decision and board vote to not certify, and you took it upon yourself on the day that you got this new ruling to go behind our backs one more time and against the vote of the board, and you certified over our objection.
Wait, I did.
Yes, you did.
I haven't
And
all
each one of us emailed you, asking you specifically to follow the
And I
dictates
said
of
Heard that you
the
did
board.
file the form. You said so yourself. We voted not to certify.
It's for the appeal.
No, it's not, Laura. No, it's not.
So they made.
So again,
That is misleading for you to say that's for the appeal.
It says
We voted
it.
not to
It
certify.
literally
Well, Laura,
says.
make it
We made a
very
decision
clear.
August 2017 not to certify.
That's right.
And
I
we
remember
won
that
the
day very
lawsuit.
well.
Hang
I'm
on.
sure you do.
We won the lawsuit. And then, and knowing that
Here's my
information,
point.
we
What I
went
did-
behind our backs
Listen,
and signed the IMRF agent form saying that you were gonna go against the will of the board, majority, of trustee McKenzie, trustee Carabota, and myself.
well, you guys sent me, I have all the timestamps, sent me emails and
Oh, please.
you
You don't remember the board votes? Is that what you're saying?
The board vote
needed
has
emails from us
nothing-
before you made
board
that
vote?
unilateral action?
Okay, did you read this?
Yes, Yes, I did. Yes, I
Can
did.
you,
And did you remember our vote?
your vote has literally.
I disagree. I disagree.
Well, there is a rule of statutory construction.
Yeah, I know it well, Laura. Let's just move on.
Well, if you're moving on to accuse, here's the deal.
Oh, no, we're past that. You already confirmed what you did. You confirmed it for everybody. It's on video now.
In my opinion, you
I
did not
know
act as an
confirm
authorized
everything you
agent.
guys are, I haven't even finished. So, the forms were signed well before I got any emails from either of you. I'm not talking, Ryan, would you like to?
The emails
Really?
are,
Come on, serious.
Seriously, I just don't.
That is inappropriate. I expect better of you.
It's the first time.
the notification received from you that you did this.
Would you
was
rather
May-
I didn't
Was May
receive?
Was May 24, 2019, at 6:14
Yeah.
PM is when you notified us that you did it, after we had already given you.
And all three of us
We didn't
emailed you.
have to do, we didn't have to do it, we were just
But wait, if
reminding
it's not-
you
hang on.
by email not
I
to do it.
haven't been allowed to finish. So if it's so clear cut, why were you all emailing me after I'd already done it?
Because you didn't already do it, number one. Number
I
two,
did, I
we
have
did
proof,
not.
but-
We emailed you because
Backdated forms?
No,
That's
oh,
proof.
okay,
Yeah.
so here's the
you
thing.
have a history, and that's why the emails are not.
So,
Remember, we got the letter January 24, 2018.
So you do
of a
want
letter
that,
that was
which that
addressed to the
appeal-
board by the IMRF in November
Which
of
is why I was
2017.
sending you on Friday.
Which you sat on for 2 months and then gave it to us at 10 o'clock at night.
Which would have been
Why
after
I
an appeal
sent
You
process.
said that it's because we don't know
Well,
the
you
law,
can't
we had a
win.
99% chance of
We're not
losing.
gonna win this one.
So,
This was all hidden
let me
behind our
point
back.
out for all of the residents who may watch this tape, that the township, the paragraph 3, was enacted so as to prevent, politics entering into it. It was enacted,
Politics really came into it because you did that to protect your friend and to give your friend
Really?
benefits. Yes, Laura,
This-
yes.
wait.
Are you
tone it down, tone it down.
You're lying.
Oh,
Really?
so.
You sit there and let David go and lie every meeting, and that's
Oh,
what you
Okay, stop.
Get it.
So I am still the CEO,
Okay, good.
and I would like to point out that paragraph 3, first of all, they don't do superfluous paragraphs. And it
Outrageous.
clearly is moving forward. And so there is no such thing as that you are supposed to, there is absolutely nothing. So you didn't want me to tell you I did it? That's insane. So I do have
You weren't
timestamps
supposed to do it.
to be accused now of lying. So clearly, I would like to, I'm gonna hire a lawyer. I'm not gonna be accused.
There's an ethics issue here again, as your conduct laws in November of 2017
Because
to
you
January
always have to
2018.
make it personal.
It's not personal,
So
it's
just
your
so
conduct.
the township.
And it costs the township
I'm
money. The
still
attorney's
talking.
fees we had to pay to straighten out this problem, and we straightened it out, and you do it again.
And so I guess you ignored the part of the appeal where it said it would have been better.
You ignored the board, and you.
I think you ignored when IMRF asked
Exactly what
you,
paragraph
you
3
never-
says.
when IMRF asked you in November why this decision was made,
Why are
you
we
took it
talking
upon
about
yourself
November?
to
This is
answer
going
and not
forward.
tell us that they even asked you, so you're the board
That's
majority.
irrelevant.
No,
It's
it's not
irrelevant.
It's very pertinent to the ethics issue that Dave Carabota, trustee Carabota just referenced. It's an ethical
When you
issue.
talk about
Why were we
ethics,
not included?
when you're
So-
in office for 3 months, and I was already enrolled in IMRF
So,
since 2014, in 3 months, you have no idea my participation in my office. You had no workings of the township
and they
at
did,
all. if you even come to the township before you were voted in.
We tried to
Denied
come, and
access
You know
to your
what?
office.
You know
Yeah,
what?
so if
When you answered that night, I asked for a reason. You said, I don't have to give a reason. I don't have to give you an answer. I don't have to say anything to you. And you know what? The money that you're paying the attorney, it would take 10 years of contribution from the township
Which you,
towards my
which
IMRF.
you and Laura caused. You and Laura acted in concert. and caused.
That you caused.
This is a win,
You
this
voted.
ruling is a win for the taxpayers. We just ceased pensions, and now they got reinstated.
Right, you mean
because
like
our
the pension that
agent
you have
as a
from District
supervisor
63?
Is the district
Being a
supervisor is
teacher?
now.
That you have a pension from IMRF? Are you serious?
So,
What is good for you is okay, but nobody else.
this is why we're not doing this tonight. And first of all, here's the thing. I put on the agenda the two things you wanted, and so obviously we're gonna do those things. And if you are all, going to start accusing of all of these terrible, heinous, so I just want the public to know that we have spent, at this point, $25,000 to save $3,500 in a given calendar year. They won a 1.5 year, they cannot be, back service credit, so she can't vest. So,
Well, she has the right to appeal.
she does, and that'll cost her money, and so that's fine.
Well, I just wanna make
It's not
sure-
gonna cost the township money.
Well, if there's an appeal filed, which there might be, then on behalf of the township, I would assume we would want to defend the decision. which
Well,
the IRS
isn't one of the jobs, and, these guys are conflicted out, but for purposes of defending the township, one of the things, is not to cause lawsuits.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, there is a very good argument that, okay. So we're not gonna solve that right now, and when I get accused of things, I will hire a lawyer. I won't say anything further, have everything timestamped. I didn't ignore your emails, I didn't get them until after it was done. And I didn't go back to your original ruling at all, because paragraph 3 says absolutely the opposite.
If you look at paragraph 4, however, Ms. Morass.
Well, but then
Paragraph
look
4.
at paragraph 5.
Paragraph 4,
Look at paragraph 5.
but I don't want you to ignore paragraph 4.
I did.
And paragraph 4 specifically states the determination of eligibility for individual participation in IMRF within the requirements of the Illinois Pension Code under your guidelines as provided by IMRF is the primary responsibility of each IMRF participating unit of government. And the unit of government.
And what does paragraph 5 say?
And paragraph 5, again, recognizes the importance of that, but allows the IMRF board, in essence, to take that into consideration.
As one, either her certification or the town.
Well, that's not quite true.
It says it.
But the point here is.
Literally,
The point here
it says
is
it.
that
When
the-
evaluating whether an elected position qualifies for IMRF participation, I'm sorry, I'm going to read the whole paragraph. Notwithstanding the fact that the primary responsibility for determining IMRF eligibility rests with each IMRF participating unit of government, the Board of Trustees, as the administrators of the fund, may inquire into determinations of eligibility and other related matters affecting the payment of benefits to members or potential members, and reserves the right to make independent determinations on the basis of facts available. When evaluating whether an elected position qualifies for participation, certification by a governing board, or by an individual elected official may be a factor, but will not control the board's final determination. So that's the first time that's ever been in there, ever. Because I compared all of these, going all the way back, as is paragraph 3.
I agree. That's a new rule
Yes,
that they're going to.
because IMRF was covering their ass.
I don't know that that's for a fact. I don't know who
Okay.
you.
They didn't tell me that.
The IMRF didn't say that to me. They didn't say they were covering
They
their
didn't
ass.
say it to me either, so,
That's not how they explain their rulemaking to me.
okay, and so.
But the position that the board is in is the fact that we have now Form 6.21 that does not, it's internally inconsistent as it was presented on May 23rd. What IMRF under Rule 3 was attempting to have you do, if you looked at the pension code rule that
I
was
did.
cited, is to certify the person. Unfortunately, your certification was as to the position, two completely different things.
Well, that's the form they asked for.
And that's a problem with the IMRF coming out with a late rule that leads people to assume that what they're doing is correct, and it's not. And that's an IMRF problem. And if they had known about this problem, it's unfortunate that they didn't plan for this, so that the rules could have been better.
As I said, IMRF.
So they've got a bad rule and bad forms, or at least a bad form in this case.
The forms haven't updated.
They have not set out any new forms. As a matter of fact, even though they adopted this rule on May 17th, it was not available for public consumption or review prior to their meeting because they didn't know what the board was going to do as of that date. When we had an IMRF meeting, it still is not available. Their rule-making forms haven't caught up with this resolution, so the form that's currently on file is inconsistent with the board and the board's legislative decision, which was recognized as valid by IMRF. And that's a quandary for the board, which I think leads to the next matter, which is to actually take the opportunity to appoint a different IMRF authorized agent and to rescind the form if that is the board's decision.
Well, the board, I don't believe has the authority to do that under paragraph 3.
Well,
To rescind.
that'll be another question for IMRF, but that's up to the board.
Hang on. So apparently you seem to have advised these 3 of doing that. And
We have brains.
Oh, no, right.
We have brains.
I presented that resolution.
okay.
And that's all today, that's nice.
I did get an email Tuesday before anything was done, requesting that I be removed and putting Claire. So, and then when you look at the authorized agent manual, and this is no disrespect to Claire at all, but she, and Karen and I discussed this, and it does not fit any of the requirements.
Well, we see an internal problem with IMRF rules right now, so I don't know if I put a lot of stock in that. And what the state law provides is this board can determine whoever they seek to put into that position.
All right, so you.
And actually it was
I'm
not
supposed to
the
follow.
board. There was,
Wait, hang on.
trustees came up with this idea to the extent that I discussed that with one or the other and suggested that yes, that does meet the dictates of Illinois law. I won't deny that. It does. Specifically, it is allowed under Illinois law.
I am supposed to follow the IMRF authorized agent manual, but you're saying that we shouldn't follow it.
No, I'm saying you didn't follow.
No, I'm talking about the authorized agent qualifications. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So.
Those qualifications are recommended.
Correct. They
They're
don't
not
have any
statutorily
power
required.
over us.
Correct.
As
It's not
likewise,
statutorily
we
required.
don't have any power over them. And which is a recommendation to them. So, as of Tuesday, what was the reasoning behind all that?
I'm not sure what your question is,
Well, removing me.
because I think that they were notified by you on Friday.
But, I mean, it's Tuesday.
That was,
Tuesday before Friday.
oh, I don't know, you'd have to ask one of the members who saw you.
That's okay, I don't really need to know.
It did not come to my attention until
Well, I was told different, but, that's okay.
Wednesday. Yeah, you're right, because I did know, because your board rules.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Wednesday. they
Yeah,
asked
your
you.
board rules indicate that if you want a motion on your board, it has to be the Wednesday before the meeting. So yes, Wednesday.
Right. And so, as I
But I
said,
think
no
that was-
disrespect, but it should be Denise.
Well, and to your question though, I think that there might have been some concern because in our meeting, our telephonic conference with IMRF, it was recognized by opposing counsel that putting the ball back in motion would be as simple as having the assessor certify by filing Form 6.93 and you certify in your position as authorized agent by filing Form 6.21. It was made very clear in our telephone conference.
Which I was not privy to.
No, it was only attorneys.
And clearly it sounds like then it was legal.
The IMRF has told you, pursuant to paragraph 3, that what Ms. Mullen-Cray has to do and what the IMRF authorized agent should do. But the authorized agent is to certify the employee, not the position. Form 6.21 certifies the position. So the form does you no good. That would be my position. IMRF might disagree. And that's what the process is all about.
Okay. But I think the board was, I don't really need to be here for the, accusations.
I don't know that there's an accusation.
It's just.
Other than that, you filed a form with the IMRF that went against the dictate of the board.
What's that little thing? That's a fact.
Okay, so it's a fact in their mind. So.
You didn't file it?
It had nothing to do with the appeal, nothing. I can't say it again.
It's like we would
Literally
the appeals.
moving forward. It has nothing to do with the appeal. The appeal was done, won the appeal. She will never, ever get the 1.5 years.
That's not.
Unless she files an appeal, which costs a lot of money. So, my point is, I believe Claire called me a liar, or that I was doing it for my friend.
Oh, you definitely did it.
And here's what I'd like to say to that point, and then I have to leave because I have a trial tomorrow. And it doesn't really seem productive to be here without a lawyer. So, here's what I'd like to say.
But we're not going to vote on the resolution.
It's fine, you can do whatever you want.
If you were to appoint Claire as the IMRF.
So my point is this. I voted to reduce the assessor's salary by, and Susan was here for that, as was Sean. And I voted to reduce her salary over her huge outright, by a lot, Claire. So I don't know how all of a sudden I'm doing this for my friend for $3,500 in a given year of employer.
It's not just employer contributions that are at issue, though. That's
The benefits
that's
are
not being
much
fair.
more than that, that's
It's
right.
also to
No,
build,
she
it's
can't
to
do
build
that.
a
We're talking
pension.
about future benefits.
Right, it's not just,
That's compound, by the way.
500 a month? Do you even know?
Well, you
Check.
must really want them badly to do what you did, to collude together, to go behind our backs.
Oh,
So
please.
that's, again,
Yes,
I mean, like, the three of you got together to go against me.
No,
started
that
this
is
mess.
the truth. Don't say
I
about
started the whole mess.
We,
You're in the
we
office
did-
3 months, 3 months.
We just.
So what? I know it all. I know what everybody else
Hours.
I know what
Our
everybody else
votes counted.
You guys don't have to elect somebody to, like, finish the board meeting. I mean, I can't, you know, sit here and be accused by everybody of being a liar. This is like insane. And I really would recommend that you appoint Denise, because I think that Denise, and, you know, she does most of the stuff, most of the things. But you're not gonna take that recommendation because it's all personal to you. And this township says they want to move forward, and want to do all these things, and then they move 10 steps backwards, and I'm very disappointed in them.
Can we
So-
call the next question? 'Cause
Yeah,
you're sitting here for minutes, we could have gotten.
No, I think I have a right to defend myself when you 3 times call me a liar.
No, I didn't, but go ahead, defend yourself.
Anyhow, I'd just
No,
like to
I'm
thank you for
done
letting me
doing
come out
that.
and meet with the board personally. I hope that while it has been at some cost to the township, I hope that it did support the township's decision-making, and it also supported the IMRF rulemaking authority, which was under attack by the Assessors Council throughout the proceeding. So that was a victory as well for IMRF to come up with that ruling. And thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Also,
It's a victory for the taxpayers.
I just want to also say, though, that there was an awful lot of work done by Attorney Mary Dixon. I've attended one of the hearings. I watched a lot of her work, a lot of her effort, and it was quite commendable. It was quite commendable.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Concur.
Okay, so I assume one of you would like to make this motion?
Yes, I'll make the motion to adopt Resolution 2019-5, Version 2, appointing the Maine Township IMRF authorized agent. I seek a second.
Second.
I'd like to read into the record the resolution. Whereas the Maine Township is a township duly organized and existing pursuant to the Township Code, Section 60 ILCS 5/1-1 et sec. And whereas the township is a participating municipality in the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. And whereas as participating municipality, the township is required to appoint an individual to serve as a township's authorized agent for IMRF purposes in accordance with Illinois Pension Code 40 ILCS 5/7-135A. And whereas the township IMRF authorized agent is vested with all the powers and duties as set forth in the Pension Code 40 ILCS 5/7-135B. And whereas the Pension Code provides that the township supervisor serves in such position in the absence of an appointment. And whereas in accordance with the Pension Code, the supervisor currently serves in the position of IMRF authorized agent pursuant to a notice of appointment of authorized agent filed with the IMRF in May 2017. And whereas the Board of Trustees believes it is necessary and proper and in keeping with the Pension Code 40 ILCS 5/7-135A to appoint its authorized agent. And whereas the Board of Trustees finds that Trustee Claire R. McKenzie has the necessary skills and authority to serve both the township and its IMRF members as its authorized agent, and that Trustee McKenzie has indicated her willingness to serve in such capacity. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Maine Township Board of Trustees, Cook County, Illinois as follows. Section 1. The recitals set forth above are incorporated herein, made a part hereof. Section 2, that Claire R. McKenzie be appointed effective immediately to serve as the Maine Township IMRF authorized agent and in such capacity to undertake all the powers and duties of the position as set forth by law and in accordance with all IMRF adopted rules and regulations. Section 3, that in accordance with this resolution, the appointed agent and the Maine Township Clerk shall execute IMRF Form 2.20, Notice of Appointment of Authorized Agent as attached hereto, and deliver it to IMRF in accordance with the IMRF rules regarding such notice. Section 4, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption. Section 5, all resolutions or parts thereof in conflict with any of the provisions of this resolution are, to the extent of such conflict, hereby repealed. Adopted this 28th day of May 2019. Any discussion?
Yeah. I'm going to read into the record the authorized agent responsive qualifications, page 47. The authorized agent should be a person. It is recommended that the authorized agent be a member of IMRF. A member, blah, 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 refers to somebody who qualifies or somebody who is participating. All authorized agents, regardless of IMRF participation status, may submit a nominating petition. This is irrelevant to vote in the executive trustee election. The authorized agent does not need to be an officer in the unit of government, but preferably should be a full-time employee. The authorized agent should have the following qualifications. 1, a close working knowledge of all personnel employed by the unit of government, including new and terminated employees. 2, access to personnel records, payrolls, and other employee compensation records. 3, an adequate channel of communication with the local governing body or chief executive officer. And 4, sufficient time to perform local administrative IMRF functions. So, I'm not going to quiz. You know, I think that Denise should be the person. Let's call this question. I think that Claire does not, no offense to her as a person. She's got financial skill, but that has absolutely nothing to do with IMRF agents' duties to employees. And
I call the vote.
I just did.
Supervisor Moraes?
No.
Trustee Jones?
Emphatic no.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right, now for the rest of the agenda.
Yeah, they can approve, so I can have the chairman real quick.
Okay, so right now, a temporary chairman needs to be elected because I have to go.
Someone just make a motion to appoint
Yeah, I'm
somebody.
gonna make a motion to
Okay.
appoint Kip as a temporary chairman.
I think it might be better if they, since you're not going to be here, and you're technically the chairman, I think it might be better if they make the motion over there.
I make a motion to appoint Claire McKenzie as chairperson to conclude this meeting.
Second?
Supervisor Moraes?
I understand.
Trustee Jones?
No.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
When you were in Alright, you sign this. Oh, we don't sign this.
Okay, next on the agenda is the TAC annual membership dues. The packet information says that the annual dues for the township are $2,000.
We'll take care of it.
Sure you give it to Pete.
Does anybody want to make a motion to approve the annual dues for Maine Township at $2,000 for tech?
Make a motion to approve the Township of Cook County annual dues to be paid by the board for this current fiscal year totaling $2,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Hearing none, can we?
Okay, Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Next is discussion on the Justifax contract / employee background checks. We received materials in the board packet regarding the credential verification and the client startup package and the cost for doing the basic background check along with additional options. Anybody want to make a motion to contract with Justifax?
I make a motion to adopt the background checks contract with Equifax as presented to the board by Vicki Rizzo and Dana Berman.
Any discussion? Hearing none, can
We didn't have a second.
Oh, is there a second?
Second. I'm just,
Any discussion? You have a question?
I just was wondering if this applies to each new hire.
New hires only.
Yes, we just added it in our personnel policy manual, that will now do background checks on any new hire. So this company was most economically feasible and 30 hours for background check.
Okay.
Starting with any new hire, now we'll start using them.
And there were a couple of other companies bid on that.
Yes, I think we looked at 3 or 4 companies. I think Vicki provided you with the paperwork.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, can you call the question?
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is the capital fund proposed expenditure for Space Co. Engineering Company services for parking lot excavation and resurfacing project, $5,000 estimate. Anybody want to make a motion to approve that capital fund?
I make a motion to approve the capital fund expenditure of Spaceco Engineering Company services for the parking lot excavation and resurfacing project.
I second.
And that amount is for an estimate of $5,000.
I second. Any discussion? Hearing none, can you call the question, please?
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Are there any officials' reports?
I would like to keep going.
Sure.
I want to thank very much our wonderful Mainstreamers staff that put on the 90th plus birthday party on May 16, 2019 at the Chateau Ritz. It was a phenomenal turnout. It was quite a joyous event, and it's great to see a lot of our seniors in our township in a very happy state, and I think they very much appreciated, including the singing of Happy Birthday by our head Mainstreamers and joined by Susan Sweeney. Also, I participated in the American Legion Memorial Day Parade at Park Ridge, chaired by John Shucka again this year. He did an excellent job. I joined Trustee McKenzie and Trustee Sweeney in participating in that parade on behalf of Maine Township. I very much want to thank the McKenzie family, Ryan and Claire McKenzie, for bringing forth and risking their 1969 classic Chevrolet pickup for the purpose, and it was chauffeured, thank you, by the safe operation of Ryan McKenzie. We distributed an awful lot of candy. The candy selection was excellent, and the amount was great. It couldn't have been better. Being a member of the Knights and participating in many parades in that regard, and in other parades for other reasons, that candy selection was excellent. The distribution of the candy was supervised by Trustee Claire McKenzie and distributed by myself and Trustee Susan Sweeney to a lot of happy children. And I think it was a great moment for pride, let me put it that way, for our township. And we again remember those who have served, given the ultimate sacrifice, and those who currently serve in our armed forces. Thank you.
Anyone else with beneficials?
Thank you. Quickly, I too want to thank Marie for heading up the Mainstreamers Luncheon. She did a fantastic job. And thank the McKenzies for their help in having an alternative to just the Maine Township truck, kind of a special vehicle to ride around the parade. But I also just want to comment that, we put a lot of time and effort into the budget evaluation process, and not without some heartache and trying to figure and navigate through this. It's not easy to look at trying to keep, a township government, in a flat situation, to not continue to grow and grow, because, it's at risk of shutting down based on what you look around and see what's going on your state. So, to look at us and be blamed as punishing the employees, I don't think is fair. I think we've put an incredible amount of effort to try to bring forth and protect an awesome plan for the employees that's valued at near $100,000 just as an increase that we have to absorb for them. So I think that we have to look out for the taxpayers of our state that aren't accustomed to getting the same level of year after year increases and benefits on the pension side that's given in defined benefits through the local government office that's here. So we represent the taxpayers. I got elected as a trustee from the people that voted for me that are taxpayers. So out of the 135,000 residents that we have here, we had to consider, and I've talked to many, many people, what their wishes and wants are. It's not just to, do something automatic because it's been done for years in the 50 people that are in the township right now. We answer to, over 100,000 people. So thank you for understanding it. No.
I waived my report because of the late hour.
I waived mine as well. So at this time, I believe that we need to go into closed session in order to approve the closed session minutes of November 27th.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I know that we had your written report. so-
Yeah, I sort of had something to add. I just wanted to say something, sorry, to the podium, that's all right. Actually, just for the record, I want to commend and thank the entire Maine Township staff for stepping in and helping out for the assessor's office the entire month of May. I think I'd briefly go around the building and thank them, but I just want to state at the board meeting, in a time of need, as with any department that gets busy, it's just a wonderful thing to see the entire township family jump in and help the department without hesitation and complaint. I asked the entire staff for the whole month of May to please not park in the parking lot and park on the street, and I know we're spoiled because we park in the lot. Some of us had to park 2 or 3 blocks down, and walk down. Again, we're spoiled because we get to park right here, but I asked them, and the assessor's office asked if we could park on the street and allow the residents to use the lot for the month. And of course, I didn't hear a grumble. Everybody was like, sure. And so we've been doing that, and that's allowing the residents, of course, to use the lot. When certain staff were asked to rearrange their schedules to help out, they immediately rearranged their work duties and clients
So to accommodate them, I've been observing these employees, and with hundreds of people coming through the doors, it's just been smooth sailing. So a big thank you must go out to the employees for surpassing requirements that were asked and exceeding my expectations of them. So if the department heads can pass on to their employees, I just want to thank everyone for helping out. We all help each other out in the departments, but this month helping out the assessors, everyone did a great job. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
ma'am.
Okay, now we need to go into closed session to approve the closed session minutes number 2 of November 27, 2018.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to ILCS 5-120-2-C1.
It's actually 21, that's a typo, so it's 2C21.
2C21.
So I think there's a motion and a
Is there a
second.
definition to what that is? I'm sorry.
That's minutes of the body, minutes of closed sessions either for the review of content or for the semi-annual review. That's what C21 is.
I present a motion to go into closed session to seek approval of the closed session minutes identified as number 2 on November 27, 2018 pursuant to ILCS 5-20-2-C21.
Second.
That's got the, yep, trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie, could you allow the department heads to leave at this time?
Oh. Having come out of closed session, I'd like to make a motion to come out of closed session and
Motion to approve content.
Yeah, we're going to approve those, what, approve the minutes for content?
Who seconded the motion to adopt?
I'll second the motion
I made a motion.
to come out. Who's going to make the motion? Now you
I
have
made
to
the
vote.
motion to come out
We didn't make the motion.
for content, or I'm sorry.
No, for content, not yet, not yet. The motion to come out was clear, I second.
Okay, we got it? Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
And now, can somebody make a motion to approve for the closed session minutes for content?
I make a motion to approve the closed session minutes for content, and it is the meeting of closed session minutes number 2, November 27th, 2018.
Second.
Okay. Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
And Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Who released them?
No, just
No,
content.
Just content.
Just the time. Okay. No, not released them.
Now we're-
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.